everyone, and welcome to the Village of Main and Village of Broco Budget Public Hearing. We will call the meeting to order. I think it's 7:05. It's nice to see everyone here and visiting with our neighbors. At this time, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Did everyone get a copy of the printout that was on the back table? I'll do a general overview. If you have any questions, you can, raise your hand. Hopefully, Cindy or one of the board members, Patty, if someone sees you, bring it to my attention, and we'll try to answer them. It's been a little bit of a difficult process again, and mainly because when the CBA was done and the attachment was done, the DOR was telling our assessor, the county treasurer, Cindy and I, that there was a way that we were going to be able to blend Broco's valuation, our valuation, and somehow we were going to be able to mesh our famous levy limit sheets, and that we could get Broco to Maine's rate as soon as we attached. Well, I think, and this is just a Betty opinion, that because this has never happened in the state of Wisconsin before, they do not actually have something in the state statute that addresses how a organized dissolution of a municipality that is then joined to another municipality through a cooperative boundary agreement, how that's handled. And so Randy has the email that they sent Cindy and I after our county treasurer had multiple discussions with them. Our village assessor had multiple discussions, and they kept assuring us. At the end of the day, really late in the 11th hour, we found out that they were going to force us to do 2 tax rolls because they dropped us into an annexation statute is what they did. And at that point, I talked to Attorney Froker, and he said we could go for legislative help, but that isn't very popular sometimes, and you want to pick and choose your battles. Senator Petrusky has just been awesome with us as far as helping us get through the hurdles that we encountered with the Public Service Commission, the DNR, and we really want them to know that we're a team player. And so Cindy and I said, we'll roll up our sleeve, we'll have another tax year where we won't sleep, but at the end of the day, hopefully we have a good relationship with the Department of Revenue. And so we forged ahead, and the board has been very, very good, and I thank you for all your efforts. We, again, worked really hard to see how we could help Broco, even though we couldn't get you to our tax rate. I think we significantly, impacted your tax rate to the betterment. So that being said, what Cindy and I did is we pretty much locked all of Broco's general items into our expenditures. But of course, because we've never had a sewer and water utility, and once we found out that they were going to make us run 2 tax rolls, that of course then triggers, it's going to cost us money because we're going to have 2 audits. And so there's no sense in us meshing them before we start January 1 of 2019. So if you go to your first page 1, you have your general local taxes, and I'm going to have you bounce back and forth because you have page 1, and then you, on this page we'll kind of just go down. Your general local taxes for Maine, we're projecting $735,849. Our special assessment, that is for our garbage, so that's an in and an out. That goes right on your tax rolls, a special assessment. We pay it, this year it's going to be Harder's. You pay it with your taxes, so it's a wash, and it's about $140,580. if the county treasurer has been able to successfully roll them all. We haven't had a chance to critique her work, but we did get that late today. Our intergovernmental revenues, that is our shared revenues, our fire insurance, our local transportation aids. It is also, there's a small amount of money we get for the forest management, and then we get sometimes a small fire department grant. So all total, we're projecting revenues for the intergovernmental of $258,814.71. And I like to always tell the audience, this is a, kind of, it's looking into a crystal ball. There's always little glitches along the way, but that's what we're projecting for 2019. Then our regulations and compliance, that is items, liquor and beer licenses, bartender licenses, building permits, zoning permits, conditional use permits, wrecking permits, land division. All of those items fall under this category of regulation and compliance, and that's $11,880. Public charges for services, that is the special assessment letters that Patty, our treasurer, does when people are selling a property. And then it's any money that we bring in for miscellaneous, like asphalt, shouldering, granite, culvert permit fees, utility permits. And for that, we're projecting $5,300. Our intergovernmental, now we have lost Broco's contract, so right now it is part of Stettin and part of Berlin, and that is $47,750. We also do share an agreement with Remountain. We do a portion of Stettin, it's Remountain and Maine, then we do a portion of Stettin, just Maine Fire by itself, and then Maine Fire also does a portion of Berlin. Our commercial revenues, that is just things like our sale of highway equipment, town hall rentals, insurance premium refunds. It is the interest on our different bank accounts, and we're projecting $9,740 in that category. Now the advance from the general fund, part of that was the USDA started approving some of the bills that Maine had paid in the past that fall under the category of our water, our new well. And so now she's starting, Cindy's been working real closely with her. Cindy submits bills, pulls old bills that Julie is willing to reimburse, and so we're projecting all total an advance of $285,000 in that category. Then our special funding revenues, that is the gift that we received from Senator Petrusky, the expenditure restraint. A lot of that gets spent quite quickly because the purpose of that was to pay off Broco's debt. We would like to this year, we have the agreement with Texas that some of their expenses would get reimbursed because they helped us a lot with the lawsuit of WASA. There was a lot of legal bills, and so we have agreed that we will refund them some of their funds or their expenses, and that is all calculated. So at any rate, we have $583 in that category. And then we have the new loan revenues. And what that is we did not purchase the fire truck last year. It was not ready. The truck is kind of on its way in, and so our loan revenues are the money we will get through the USDA loan and for the fire department loan. So any questions in that category, in those categories I should say? Okay, then we'll go to expenditures. Our general government, that is everything that it pretty much takes to keep the administrative part going for the municipality. It is the board salaries, mileage, office expense, its legal expense, all the wonderful things that Randy comes and spends a lot of nights and a lot of phone calls and has helped us through this uncharted waters. It is like Keith's salaries, our administrator's salaries. It is the clerk, all of the costs that are associated with running an election. Cindy well knows about that. It is our auditing fees for doing the year-end audits. The treasurer, Patty, both these girls do a great job. It's all of the things they need to do their jobs. We have the assessor contract, we have the municipal center, which includes the custodian. Things like when we had problems with the air conditioner, any building upkeep, furnishings. Then we also have, that would pretty much, we have what we call a general government. It's just kind of a catch-all category, and one item in there is our dues for we're a member of the Wisconsin League of Municipalities. It's a group of villages and cities. So at any rate, our total expenditures in that group are, we're projecting $355,950. Public safety is our constable. It's the fees we pay to Lincoln County, Marathon County, for all the services they provide, and it's also our address signs. And that we have projected $32,950. That also does include a very important expenditure, which is our two-mile transportation for the children, so they aren't walking on Highway K or our busy streets like Falcon 32nd, and it is also an ambulance contract. That all falls under public safety. Fire department, I think you probably know what that's all about. It's the, they get a yearly per diem for attending drills. It's their computer, office expense, maintenance of the building, breathing apparatus. This year we had something that needs to be done every 15 years, correct, Wes? Wes works a lot with the fire department. It's for their SCBA. They were expired and we had to replace them. They got a demonstrator units. Demos. They got a very good price. They normally would have been 120,000, what was it, 80? Okay. It's their turnout gear, their training, all vehicles. So all total, the fire department, including their inspector, is $456,650. And the reason that looks very high is because the truck has to go into an expense category, even though it is funded through the loan, which will then come in as a revenue. Next category, public works. There again, pretty explanatory. Any of you get your roads plowed, sanded, culverts installed. The guys do a great job. It's our asphalt seal coating, crack sealing, recycled granite, shop supplies, tools, ditching, all of our vehicles, chainsaws, our lane wedger, you name it. That all falls into that category. Is $829,200. Conservation and development is our zoning and building inspector costs. And then we also have our debt, service, interest, and principal. And that, of course, we have the Ford 550. We have the interest on this interim USDA loan. We also have the fire department truck coming up. Am I missing anything else? Fire department 550? Nope, that's it. So that is projected cost of $2,011.170.52. And then we have our garbage and recycling services. And again, you will see that that's a wash from expenditures to revenue. Our planning, that is everything that we expect to have going on yet with the well. And one thing, we have added some money this year. We're hoping to work with, not hoping, we will be working with Becker. We want to look for some grants. There's some CBDG, correct, Keith?
Yep.
Our next really top priority is upgrading the sewer treatment plant and or looking to see if there's any other options for us. So there we have projected $772,683.19. Now at the very bottom, because I just did not know where to go with the sewer and the utility and Broco's Public Works, because theirs is quite different than ours, and Cindy has to create a lot of different categories to meet Johnson & Block's auditing procedures. So there I just locked everything that was left over from Broco and that is a total of $344,730. And Cindy will attest to this, the majority of that is the sewer and the water utility and the cost to run that, whether it's Clayton's wages, the chemicals, you know, the pumping of sludge and taking it to Wausau, repairs of the mains, you name it. There's lots. Keith could probably, Cindy could name off a lot more, but that's just a brief overview. So at any rate, anyone have any questions on the expenditures? Okay, then moving, yes.
There's the long-range comprehensive plan that's, we've talked about, I know, in the planning commission. Is there a cost to us in that?
And that was paid last year. That was part of the USDA, in order to get that grant and loan, a requirement, because they want to make sure you're spending the federal taxpayer money wisely, and they want to see growth. So, you know, and they're not telling us where we have to grow, but they want to see that money get to put to good use. And so the USDA required us to do that. We were eligible for, or Broco was eligible for a EDA grant, an economic development grant. We paid $25, and it was a $25 cost share. So, and that is going to be, I'm sorry, yeah, $25,000. I apologize.
50-50 split.
Yeah.
Grant versus our.
And they're working on that right now, but they're
Yeah.
trying to dovetail that into that comprehensive plan, and we're kind of shooting for February, March to have kind of merge the comprehensive plan with that economic development plan, and we.
So that's, are you saying then that's an old cost that's already?
Yeah,
been
I
paid
think
out?
I'm making my last, they bill it out in 4 separate payments, and I believe this is the last one that I'm paying now in December. I do have an invoice from them, and I'll be paying, they split it up in 4 increments for us, so it's not quite so big of a hit. So that'll be paid this month, this week actually. Someone in the back there has a
Yes.
question.
So let's just pretend that you weren't moving forward with drilling wells. Am I correct in understanding that you would take something out of the debt service interest and principal category, the planning category, and the Brokaw expenses category? And can you tell me how much less those would be?
How do we answer that when the majority of it is the grant? And then the money from Senator Petrusky to offset that.
But the money from Senator Petrusky is intended to pay off the Brokaw debt, not pay for the utility,
Well,
right?
part of it is, there's I'll send a sheet to you tomorrow, Tom, but there was a financial needs analysis, and the state approved 5/6 of that as far as the funding that we have. So we had $2.9 million in funding, and on the financial needs analysis, over $1 million of that was for a new water supply. Okay, so when you get the USDA grant, almost $3 million of that is, or almost $3 million USDA is granted, and the rest of it is a low interest loan. So between the USDA grant that doesn't have to be repaid and the state additional funding that doesn't have to be repaid, you're looking at about $5.8 million. And a significant part of both of those are going toward the infrastructure so that you could be independent. And that's money that's been provided by the funding sources. So, you know, the matter that always comes out here is how does that show up when you're in the process of doing it? And, you know, the bottom line at the end of the day is you will have the USDA permanent loan that will be there, not fully paid off, but a very significant part of that will be paid off by state funding. So it's, you know, that the funding is there, the funding is approved, that's not an if. That has been a done deal. Okay? And that funding was only there because of the need to go and to get an independent source.
But I guess I would argue the word need. As I review the engineering reports, the grant applications, the loan applications, the number of figures that are falsified in there to make it, yeah, would you like to discuss the numbers with me?
No.
Well, this is the budget
This is a
hearing,
budget
this is a
public
budget
hearing.
hearing.
This is a
tonight.
budget issue.
I understand.
If we wouldn't go forward with this, the budget would be greatly decreased.
Okay, here's where we're at. It's a public hearing at some point. I don't know when Betty wants to open up. You can make your public comment on it. And you can have your say in the public comment part. And then anybody else that has their say, they can have that as well. That's where, it's not a debate session for you on the USDA loan. That's not even on the agenda tonight. You can make whatever public comment you want. I'm not sure when you want to open it up for that. Normally you like to explain it and then open it up for the comment. You make that decision. At some point, you can make your comments, Tom.
Okay, moving to page 2. The Village of Maine budget's summary. We're proposing a general levy of $735,849. And that shows the percentage of difference from last year. Marathon County's levy is $1,095,855.27. The school district is $2,500,928.41. The North Central Technical College is $286,986.46.
Too many sixes.
Too many sixes, too many eights. We have the school tax credit that is here because we are a little bit late in our budgeting process because of the, debate between with the DOR, and so we have final numbers on that. So we're looking at a final tax collection there of $4,173,578.83, and so our bank account usually looks really good on January 1 and on February 1, and then Cindy writes out the checks, and we're down to what only Maine collects. So with that being said, with these figures, our tax levy will be $20.68 on 1,000, or I always like to do it on a $100,000 property. It'll be $2,068.84, which is a $30.43 decrease on a $100,000 property. If you look at below at the assessed value, we've had a couple good years with new homes. In fact, we've had a lot of comments. We've had a lot of homes being sold because of elderly people moving into townhouses, apartments, even into assisted living or unfortunately nursing homes. And the young people that move in, we have really positive comments because they like being in the rural setting, and they've paid very good dollars. The assessed value means nothing on a home if these people really want it. We're seeing average homes in Maine are selling for $50,000 to $100,000 more than what people are paying taxes on. Now, our assessor might say that we may be assessed a little bit low, but people really like the fact. I had a young man the other day who said where they were, they had the fear of being annexed into a city. They moved out here, they have smart children, they wanted some elbow room, and they know that their value is protected, so to speak, or their, what's the word I'm looking for, their investment is protected. So at any rate, we did have good news again. Cindy got the paperwork from the state. The lottery credit went up this year substantially. It went from like $70-some.
No, 112 to 107.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Our equalized value, as you can see, went up $7 million, and our assessed value went up $1,007,700,000. We've had quite a few building permits come in again this year. Like I said, as properties sell, then there's been some splits, which gives us the potential for some new homes. So then for the Village of Brockle, we're projecting the levy to be $136,500. Marathon County is $104,618.78. Wausau School District, $238,757.87. North Central Technical College, $27,397.92. The school tax credit is going to be $21,894.54, with a total tax collected of $485,380.03. Now, with what we did with basically just putting the TID and the TIF loan in this category, and basically absorbing the rest into Maine, we were able to, well, last year, the subsidy from Maine and Broco, or Maine and Texas took Broco's taxes from 44 down to 35, and this year we're projecting $26.29 per thousand, or on a $100,000 property, it'd be $2,629.66, which is an $890 decrease from the previous year. And of course, you will get, all of the local residents would get the same lottery credit, correct? And then of course, the one thing that would be different for the local residents this year is we've already turned in the code 13, the garbage and recycling, so that you're the same as Maine. Instead of it being levied into the regular tax roll, it'll show up as a special assessment. So that will be up and above your taxes, which that is the way Maine has been for 12 years. So at any rate, do we have questions on the numbers on that page before I open it up to the public? Yes, John?
A quick question. North Central Technical College, with the facility that they're building out here, have built, I should say. Obviously, I understand they're tax exempt. Do they contribute any portion to the town tax, or I forget what the proper terminology is?
They call it a billet, payment in lieu of taxes. That would be great legislation for some of our legislators to work on. We have
Nothing we can just put on.
No.
So
We
they
have
pay nothing.
no. Even in Broco, there are 2 of the group homes. We have the Armory, and here now the Masons of Wisconsin, or Masons.
No.
They just purchased the Bauer Electric Building, so that's totally tax exempt.
Churches are tax exempt.
Monk Botanical Gardens, any of their properties that are left in Maine are all nonprofit organizations, so they're tax exempt, they pay nothing.
Bob Monk, when he passed away, and his wife, the Botanical Gardens purchased his home and about 20 additional acres and half the pond, and then immediately they went for whatever code that is, what they go to the DOR and they get some special, and so.
They file special form, John. Those tax exempt organizations don't pay property taxes. The churches, all of them are in that same.
Is the Federal Reserve Building responsible for the portion of the TID or TIF, or is that totally zero also?
Reserved on that. That's part of the problem, but that's zero.
I just remember a meeting with Broco years and years back where they said they had to pay the TIF, or TIF, whatever it is.
Well,
The reserve had to pay that portion of their tax, but I guess not.
at one point, my understanding was, maybe Adam or somebody, they did for a short period of time, and then long-term, it's not. So on a long-term basis in a TID, you don't like to have tax-exempt organizations. That doesn't get, numbers are numbers, John, it doesn't get your.
You gotta give them the service and then nothing for it.
Correct, that's right.
And actually, when the gentleman, he's a very nice man, Tom Passel from the Masons, came in and did his form, he actually said to me, we'd like to make a donation to the fire department, because we understand we're tax exempt, and I said, better yet. I said, when Betty proposes her new legislation, because I really think that all of these nonprofits, and even if it's a church, I think the local taxes should be levied, just the local, because you take care of the roads, you do all the things, and I feel that all nonprofits, like Monk Botanical Garden, when we had to sign off on their papers, they have a $400,000 a year profit. The taxes, the total taxes on that property that they bought was $4,000. So what would the town's portion been, $500?
Yeah,
So
the
I
town
think
is-
on $400,000 worth of profit, they could pay
The
$500.
municipality is paying for the services that are there, including roads and that type of thing.
Just to conclude, again, the city of Wausau charges churches for a hydrant use. Where does that fall into requiring to pay something?
I'm not aware that.
Just there, huh?
It's there, yeah.
It's, I suppose, like a utility charge.
A special assessment, I'm guessing, on it. You haven't looked at that one, John, but it's a lot. It could be I think, what is it, the reserve? What is the valuation that's there that we're not getting? And there was another one that went out too recently.
Yeah.
How much was it, 200,000? Another one that a year or so now? couple $100,000 that we lost the tax base on. Doesn't help on the kid, because that income there is what we pay as the loan, so.
Matt had a question.
Yeah, do we have a, just no exact number, do you have a rough cost of what the actual garbage charge is gonna be?
It is $142
Oh,
a year. It's $11 and something odd cents a month, so.
well, thank you.
It is a change, you will be, and Keith is working on that, and I'm gonna get all the trustees in to help. Carter's has all the carts out here, as you saw. They brought us some of those like newspaper bags, and we're gonna put a flyer telling you when your recycling day is, what you can recycle. And then Keith is doing up a flyer that'll explain what you do with your old dumpsters, so that we make sure they get picked up properly. So when you get those dumpsters, there should be a plastic bag tied to the handle. Please be sure and read what's inside.
And you'll be getting those next week. They're gonna start delivering to your homes next week, your new containers. And you'll be getting two, one for recycling and one for trash.
Yeah.
Just like the city of Weston.
Two questions, what are there?
Yes, Rick?
Hey, I got a question about your roll call expenses. You listed $344,000, but on the Village of Brokaw general levy, you only be receiving $136, I guess. How come it's not $344,000 levy?
Well, it's partly is because we are subsidizing them this year because of what the DOR did to us. That was, you know, when we could have brought them into us and, but like I said, we gotta pick our battles, and part of the funding from Senator Petrusky was to help Maine recover some of our costs. And we can hold the TID open longer so we can get some of this, you know, repaid. And we're hopefully gonna do that, because the TID can go for an additional,
We can go to 2030,
instead of 2026.
2026.
So are the main residents then putting the water and sewer bill for the folks that are in Brokaw that are using water and sewer?
No,
No.
what we took on us is their general costs, which have gone down because they no longer have a village board, you know. Cindy's doing all the work here, so there isn't a big office expense. We now use sand and salt from up here, where they used to get it from Riverview already mixed. Our guys mix it, you know, so we have done a ton of cost savings. So,
Wouldn't the water rate also?
well, as soon as the wells are drilled, we're anticipating a substantial decrease in the water rates.
We don't control that though. No, I mean,
Yeah.
wouldn't that upset the
Public
water?
Service Commission, that's another battle down the road with water rates. And, the intent is, and the great desire is to get that thing down. And at least from what we're told, prospects are good, but we don't totally control it.
I guess my point was the water utility expense should be offset by the water rate. Right.
Yes,
The
yes,
intent is, yeah.
Somewhat.
Yeah.
yep.
And get your overhead costs down and all that, that's part of it.
The water is
Yeah.
definitely offset, but the sewer is always, the sewer, as you know, every month I was coming and saying that has not changed. The sewer is running in the red, it takes away.
And that's why our next hot ticket is to get the sewer treatment plant, and we're looking at all kinds of savings. You know, when a few years ago, Brokaw had 3 full-time workers, you know, we are down to 1 full-time worker. We are paying them a substantial amount of overtime because of the way that the system is so antiquated. When we can get a new system in and it's automated, we'll be able to save a lot of labor costs, but it all takes time, you know. Yes, Sherry?
I had a question, concern about the new garbage person.
Yes.
Is that who the city of Weston currently has? Okay, well, they have a rule that you can't go above your, you know, the lid has to go all the way down.
Yes,
So make sure that newsletter,
it's in there.
okay, good,
Yeah.
because I've driven by and seen like 3 or 4 garbage cans on campus
Yeah.
where it's overflowing.
Yeah,
And when I come home, every other one might be empty, but those ones that were overflowing,
So they
weren't.
leave it, the driver
Yes,
doesn't pick
they-
it up?
they
it's
have
because of
right.
their mechanism.
Yeah, the automatic won't.
Yeah,
They
so
spill it.
don't pile on because they won't pick any of it up.
Please, question.
We had a question earlier about the utility rate, and I've read in some of the reports that you've said that we're going to subsidize that utility rate, and I'd also like to point out that the money that's used to subsidize that could be spent on other things or not spent at all if we don't drill wells.
The reason is, Tom, and I don't know how well you kept up on it, but we were willing to work with WASA. We were willing to work with WASA before we even started the talk with Senator Petrusky about absorbing Broco. WASA was absolutely not a cooperative partner, and they are not cooperative today as we speak. Regardless of false information that is out there on emails and Facebook, they are not. And Senator Petrusky was in on the meeting, June 27th, when the city said what they would do with the water contract that has Broco's name on it. All of us that are sitting here know what happened. That what they agreed to on June 27th still has not happened. Attorney Froker had the contract back to them with the form that they, in front of Kurt Gibbs and Senator Petrusky, said they would do. It still is not done, and it's not because we didn't do our part. So I don't know how we can explain to people that you can't force someone to work with you, you can't force someone to be your friend, you can't force people to be responsible. We have to deal with the cards we've been dealt.
At one point in time, the DNR was upset about the amount of water that was being discharged as wastewater. And all of a sudden, DNR, as adamant as they were about that dumping, all of a sudden, they changed their tune. Well, who got in bed with who?
I don't know, I will say one thing, Scott, there's been a lot of politics from the time this got started.
Well,
And I don't know the answer or the
my point
motives,
is
but I'm
this,
saying-
my point is this, Wausau has made their bed, let them lay in it. We have our issues to deal with out here. I want us to have our own wells, our own water, period. I don't want to have anything to do with the city of Wausau water. They put a pipeline in that has to pump a certain amount of water. Otherwise, bad things start to happen as a result. And we can't even sell, how are we gonna sell enough water to pay for it?
I'd hook on.
We have to drill our own wells, we have to drill our own wells, have our own water.
And we, at the time when the city started their lawsuit, how do you go and negotiate with someone who's suing you over your incorporation? Do you really think that they're going to continue to sell us water? They were threatening to turn off the spigot, so.
That's false. We're protected by the PSC.
Well, yeah, we knew that. We went all the way to Madison, Brad, to find that out, because that isn't what the city was telling us.
You sat right across from me in the meeting, and you told me that was a lie. And that's what you told me. I said, we are protected by the PSC.
And we found that out, but that doesn't mean the WASA didn't threaten us, Brad, because they did.
They can't legally do a thing. It doesn't matter.
Well, they tried.
They can't legally shut that valve off. I know
Brad-
PSC law. That's what I do for 18 years.
Brad,
You
they
may know
tried-
it, but they threatened us.
They
Well,
said
they can
it
threaten
wasn't
all they
threatened.
want.
That's,
I think most of the people that are in this audience that live in the village of Brokaw should be really happy that this board, and I can tell you, this board has worked very hard to make sure these folks have clean, safe drinking water. And they're relying on experts, i.e. engineers and so on and so forth, to guide them in the right direction. And that's what this board has been about. And it's about helping the people in the village of Brokaw make sure they have clean water and safe drinking water.
There is safe drinking water, and there's no problem with the drinking water that's there. I just tested it, in fact. Anybody up here have any water distribution experience?
It's a fact that in the summertime, the bacteria levels were bad at the end of the line.
The way that it's
Let's
set up
step back a
during
little
the
bit. The water is controlled by the PSC. I do testing all the time to make sure it's safe. So the water that Brokaw is getting from the city of Wausau is safe drinking water. It's good drinking water, better than it was before with Clayton running it the way he is now. The The fact is, the new wells will be safe drinking water too, because we're required to supply safe drinking water. It doesn't matter if the source is the city of Wausau or it's 2 new wells that we gotta drill. The fact remains is that when we started the process, we were willing to work with the city of Wausau. The city of Wausau sued us for 2 years. We cannot sit on our hands for 2 years and do nothing, and hopefully that gets resolved. We had to move forward. The funding was put in place for us to provide our own source of water. We have the funding to do that. We're 2 years down the road before the city of Wausau drops their lawsuit. So we've got all this in play and everything's rolling towards the end result that the CBA all agreed to. All the members of the CBA agreed to go this route. That's how we got the funding, and that's how it was decided we're gonna move forward. We can talk about, well, how much money are we gonna save if we pull that out? Well, how much money are we gonna throw down the tubes if we just stop what we're doing now?
And by the way,
And we
so
still
the-
haven't gotten an agreement from Wausau, that's the whole point.
Right,
That's
and
the whole
and
point.
the
We've been
DNR
working
the
hard.
DNR says that your water retention should be in your pipes, what, 2 days, right? Is
Yeah.
what they're saying.
Yes.
And it's 4. Now, the testing coming back from what Clayton, how he's running the system is still good. So your water is really good. But the DNR, some people in the DNR are saying that's not sustainable, you can't do that. Some people in the DNR are saying, well, it is. Our engineers are telling us that we gotta follow DNR regulations. So we gotta follow the experts that we gotta hire. I don't know how else we can do that.
Can we,
That was my
can we,
point.
can we
That
add
was my
one more
point.
thing, Keith, you were at that meeting and our engineers were at that meeting, and we asked the DNR, Kathy Wonderluck. Now, we're not talking about the local DNR. Brocal right now is running on that one pipeline. Your backup well, you should know, Brad, what well
I
is
know
your
exactly what
backup
that bad well.
Okay, would you drink it?
Yeah.
Well, the DNR doesn't think people should drink out of it.
Do you know what the tests are on that well?
It doesn't matter, Brad. You can't
I
throw.
understand it, but you just asked me a question if I would drink that. I can guarantee that well's better than most of these farmland wells out here in the
But
country.
the DNR is telling us we can't even use that for a backup well.
No,
And Broke,
that's
if we
not true.
can't use it
That's
for
not
a
true.
backup well, then Brocal shouldn't have been able to also,
It is a backup well, it's approved and it can stay approved.
for fire
It was
protection.
emergency
For fire
backup
protection
source
only.
for fire protection to keep pressure, is the way the emergency agreement is written. I
Yes,
signed
it
it,
is.
send it back to the DNR.
Tom, how long have you lived in Brocal?
I live in Village, Maine.
You live in the village of Maine?
Oh,
Okay.
But,
interesting.
Yeah.
but Brad is
10
right,
years.
the water tests out, you can drink the water from well 1B, but part of the problem too is the flume, the liquor tanks were right there that got contaminated, and the DNR said we don't want to draw from that well because we're afraid it's going to draw contamination. And you can have arguments on whether or not that's going to happen, but that's the reason why those wells aren't supposed to be used for municipal drinking water.
The test, the theory behind that was all the plume was going to the river, to the bedrock underneath.
Correct, and they were worried that continued drawing from it might draw some contamination.
At a small amount with a backup well. There's arguments to be made on both sides of this. The whole point that I bucked this a little bit is, you guys don't understand what you're gonna run into as far as operating costs of wells. I have a manganese, I have your draw of what you guys are drawing out of those wells. I can tell you just by looking at these manganese numbers that you guys are gonna be nothing but problems. If that water is not filtered, you're gonna have water complaints, you're gonna have stinky water, you're gonna have your tower, you just did a tower inspection, your tower's gonna be black. I work in a municipality right now that we deal with that on a daily basis. They finally put a filtration plant in 2012, and it's finally relieving itself, so.
But Brad, all we're doing is we're going out with the professional engineers, we are taking their word on it.
Professional
We're not-
engineers that get cost, they get paid by a
Well,
percentage of the cost.
I know,
of the
but I understand that, but the parties that are doing it, do it across the state. That's what they do for a living. We have to rely on them for where they're going on it, and that's what's been done. Other people have differences of opinion on it. We gotta rely with the party that has the experience and has the training, and that's what we're doing on it. As a ton of other municipalities across the state likewise do. So, but my concern out here, it's a budget hearing that's on the agenda. You know, parties can ask questions about that, they can make their comments, it's not a debate about the wells or that type of thing. Ask your questions about the budget, that's fine, make your comments on it. Totally different matter what you're trying to bring up and apparently debate tonight, Tom included on it. Ask some questions about it, make your comments, we go on.
Yeah, I'm not trying to debate, I'm just looking for a long-term budget, how this is gonna affect everybody.
I will tell you that whether it's the DNR or other parties that we've talked to, Brad, with where the wells are going, the comments consistently have been out there that they feel it's going to be an excellent water source. So that's what we're hearing on it. You're trying to say something different, but I know that both the DNR and the engineers are real high on it. So that's what we're going on.
And they go back to the water utility rate. Currently, what's the Brokaw water rate? Second highest in the state of Wisconsin.
1340.
Yeah, second highest in the state of Wisconsin.
Is there a breakdown of what that water utility is making right now, and is it financially stable? That's a budget question.
I don't have the numbers, but it's been losing a lot of money, I know that, Brad.
In this last year?
I don't, do you know the current
The
numbers?
water utility does not lose money, the sewer.
The sewer
Sewer,
utility.
Portion of that
Okay.
does, yes.
All right.
But because the rates are so high is why it's okay.
But the
And
state.
so the idea, the thought is that there's plenty of municipalities, maybe not exactly like Brokaw, that have the same amount of water supply, but smaller municipalities that run their utilities on municipal wells like we're gonna be drilling at rates much lower than what what you got currently. So if we've got funding to make sure that we don't have a lot of overhead when those wells are in place, it would make sense that the overall cost of the water rates would go down. Now, we don't control that, the PSC controls that, and they'll tell us how that's gonna run. But I would think if you look at it from just a basic standpoint, that the rates almost, you would hope that the rates would come down, because you're not gonna have the overhead or the debt that the water service had, because we've just paid off some $1,000 of debt off.
Part of the funding's paid on the debt, and then part of it, there's actually, between the initial USDA loan and going with the Rocco water source versus one that was in the original plan at the Gage property, it's 400-some thousand additional savings that can potentially be put into other water supply related needs that we can utilize. So, and that is at no extra cost. That doesn't mean you got extra debt on that or anything else. The first 1.1 million is your debt. Beyond that, it's the grant. So that extra money that we have can be used for things that we would have to be looking at down the road, and there's a number of things potentially out there. So that'll be another 400,000 plus available for the water supply that you would not have if you went ahead and did this, as it turns out.
And just,
But
I
that's
just
where
want to
we're going.
I want to make a comment is that there has been, comments out on the street about this expenditure restraint program. This is not something that is exclusive to the Village of Maine. I just had Cindy work with me one night on this because of a comment that was made. The city of Beloit, and I don't know, we did not have a chance to see how many years they're getting, but they're getting $659,000 a year. The city of Greenfield, Milwaukee County, $685,430. The city of Janesville, $1,525,045, their expenditure restraint. Cindy was aware of some of these municipalities, some of them are even rather small. The city of Madison gets $7,042,623.81 of expenditure restraint, which is the same program that Senator Petrusky was able to get us this help. The city of Milwaukee, $9,768,840. City of Stoughton, a little sleepy bedroom town or village city, $231,263. City of Verona, $34,000. City of Beloit, another one, $659. All right, we must print to that twice. So this expenditure restraint is out there for multiple reasons. It is out there to help people that there's a need. And the need here was, a good portion of the reason is the mill left a village in dire straits with a lot of bad infrastructure, a lot of things that needed to be tended to. And he didn't feel it was right to saddle Maine taxpayers with something that we didn't have any part in creating. And so he saw potential for us to get a well and fix the infrastructure and help our neighbors and move on, and that's what we're trying to do. So any other questions here? Scott, I'll
I
take
have
yours.
a question. If someone would like to buy a house in the village of Maine, what are they, and the property they're looking to buy happens to be what used to be in the village of Brokaw. What are they told as far as the tax situation?
I've spoken, I'm gonna answer that, I guess, because I've spoken to a lot of people. With them, there is a lot of interest in properties in the area, in what formerly Brokaw area. I've taken probably in the last 3 months, 4 or 5 calls from prospective property owners as well as some real estate agents, and I tell them the same thing every time, because there's always a concern about mill rate for their taxes, and I tell them that that the former Village of Brokaw has now been absorbed into the Village of Maine. It is Village of Maine properties, and at the time I was talking with them, I said, we don't know about this year, but for sure next year, because of the January 1 rule, we will only have one tax rate, and that will be Maine's. And that's what that property will be on. And they've asked me to calculate, given a sale price, what, according to the Village of Maine tax rate that would be, and I will do that for them.
So after the first of the year, then all of the, what was formerly the city of Brokaw, their mill rate will go to the Village of Maine mill rate.
Yeah, the DOR has no choice, because one of my first conversations with them was, we hadn't absorbed Brokaw as of January 1, and that's kind of their rule. Wherever that property is as far as a municipality on January 1, that's what drives the mill rate for that year.
And that's gonna come into play next year.
So on January 1 of 2019, the DOR doesn't have any choice but to allow us to give the Brokaw residents the same, because there won't be any separation. I won't be doing property tax bills for the Village of Brokaw next year. Patty will be doing all of those residences within the Village of Maine. And just like at this election, and you worked there, part of the reason why we had so many new voters is a lot of those people came in and registered to vote that hadn't previously registered.
So they won't allow their taxes to be prorated to?
No.
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 No, they can't,
No,
there's the
they can't.
uniformity clause,
They can't
which
force
is
us to
a
do that.
constitutional clause requiring the rates to be the same. The issue that's out there, and I look through the statutes, there's not really a box that we fit in, and they're fitting us in the box that they normally do, where they look at everything January 1. That determines valuation, that determines where you're at. So they're doing the January 1 box, and of course, no question, next year, January 1, 2019, we're all here, But, and I disagree with some of the things they're saying, but there isn't a box that is there for us, okay? There isn't. I can go through it if you want in detail. It's a little bit more involved. I looked at it for quite a while before I came. So, I mean, we can argue we should be in a different box, but there's not a box that we fit into. And nobody thinks about addressing the setting that we have. We're that unique situation.
They're used to a city or a village annexing a small portion of a town. They have never had this happen where you have a dissolution and you take a whole municipality and join. So
That's a village.
Yeah.
Well, I know that the Village of Brokaw residents were excited about having their mill rate drop, and you, Betty, were excited to drop it for them. I can
And we
remember.
did.
Huh?
And we did.
Yeah, so,
Scott, the intent on it here as far as the tax, we have always tried to move as expeditiously as we could to get that rate down. We've always tried to. We haven't prolonged this out or anything else. We want to move ahead, we want to get it down. That's been our goal all along on it. And we can't always control, I mean, we cannot change by even the CBA what the statutes are that are out there. And at this point, we're not able to change the fact there's not a box for us, okay?
And Betty and I were really stressed out and nervous about this, because when it started coming down to the nitty gritty, my initial conversations with Audrey Jensen, the county treasurer, were that we would have, you know, 1 mill rate this year already for this tax season, for this tax bill, that you're gonna get in December of 2018, and then all of a sudden the state starts throwing in all these other things, and Betty and I were wrecked, because we're like, oh, this is not the way we've been portraying it. Now we're gonna look awful to these people, because we just said, okay, you're gonna be part of us, you know, we're taking you in, you're voting here, or we're all merged and all that, and all of a sudden the state is like, nope, you annexed them, and I'm like, no, we didn't annex them.
You didn't see any petition to annexation for annexation on your desk, did you? Okay. Tom?
I'd just like to point out that we've agreed that we have a safe and effective water utility. It's operating at a profit. That this board has elected to acquire a $1.2 million loan that's got to be paid back off. Increase in expenses, and if you look at the statistics and the figures as carefully as I have, you'll realize that in almost every situation, the number that they could find to be an extreme case that would help their position was used. So either there was a deception by the board of telling the engineering firm that we don't want alternative 1, as it's called in the preliminary engineering report. We need to get away from Wausau, so let's use every reason we can use to get away from them. Or it was the engineers are deceiving you by using incorrect numbers so that you believe that this is necessary. But either way, there's been a deception perpetrated, and I'd like to have a meeting where we could talk about this with our neighbors and get to the bottom of it.
I have a question for you, Tom. If you had a neighbor who was suing you for something.
So you're making an emotional decision to spend $1.2 million.
Could you please hear me out? Would you give me a chance?
Another chance to respect.
Okay, so you have a neighbor that for some reason is suing you, and all of a sudden, and in the meantime, because of that suit, you go and spend $200,000 of your hard-earned money. All of a sudden, the neighbor changes his mind and decides not to sue you. So you're going to just say, okay, now I'm going to work with you, and I'm going to take that $200,000 that I just spent and flush it down the toilet. Does that make sense?
Well, I wouldn't keep chasing bad money after good.
It's not bad money.
But keep
It's
in
good
mind
money.
that when this whole thing started, when we first started talking to the city of Wausau, the numbers for the water utility did not look good.
Yes.
And the numbers that were submitted and that were assessed by the state were not good. Have those changed over time? They have. But when that was submitted, those were accurate numbers.
They still weren't accurate then.
Well, then it was bad numbers that we got right from the water utility, because that's where they came from.
The extreme case was used. $38,000 of water loss happened 1 year, and most of that was a leak.
Those were the only years they had records of at the time of the application being applied for. If you just follow the...
You can go back in time and look up...
Go back in time, go by all means.
Okay.
If you go back, at the time that that request was made to the village of Brokaw and the city of Wausau, those were actual numbers available, period. The new numbers didn't come in until after they were requested.
But you didn't have 2016, 2015, and 2014.
Okay, there's a budget hearing going on, you can make a comment on the budget hearing. If there's another issue, it's gotta be another night and another agenda. You requested it, it's a matter that's on the agenda for the budget. Betty has explained it, asked for questions. Comments can be made on the budget, if you wanna make that, then the board's gonna move on the agenda. So, somebody else has any comments they wanna make on the budget, go ahead.
Do you know what City of Wausau charges this, last year and this year for the water for Brokaw?
Don't know what the numbers are.
I have it right here.
I don't know what the numbers are.
I mean, that's a...
Cindy
It's
has
not-
it, Cindy has it, go get
I
it.
know it's
But it's not a question on the budget.
It's in our
That's
expenditures, right?
it's part of the expenditures
That's what I was
on it, okay?
wondering. It's in our expenditures that we're paying.
I believe it's 15,000 in 2016 and $15,700 in 2017.
The purchase of water is only one piece of a very, very large pie. I want to tell you that. I do their accounting. That's only one really teeny tiny little sliver out of a big, huge apple pie of water expenses.
So you give them the water expenses. Then can you add as some goals? And if you want my larger one, I've got the larger one.
Purchase of water in 2018 is $14,906.87.
And that's not to date, that is to October.
That's to October. Electric, $2,876.
2,876.
Electric well 1B, $270. Gas well 1B, $475. Electric 4A and 5 is $1,153.21. And then water and sewer charges for the water utility, $117.46. Chemicals for treatment, $1,661.74. Supplies, $5,527.50. Testing, $243. Supplies, $2,395.70. And miscellaneous, $24. Repairs, $4,405. Parts and materials, $3,541. Repairs to well 1B, $2,025. Repairs for the other water areas, $185.78. Payroll, $5,073.76 for billing. Other payroll totaling $29,066.94.
I tried keeping up with you, Cindy, but I lost it.
Oh, that's okay. I could just print one off. I'm on page 17. Meter expense, $1,229. Hydrant expense, $1,711. Pumping equipment, $433. Equipment expense other, so miscellaneous equipment, $411. Mileage reimbursement, $192. Safe drinking loan, $17,133.70. Office expenses, $44. Phone and internet, $623. Office equipment, $140. Office supplies, $130. Dues, $1,227. Accounting and auditing, $6,840. Administrative fees, $3,387. Diggers hotline, $73. Pension and educational expenses, $220. And that's what I have.
Wages, so Cindy.
You did.
$29.
Anybody else have comments on the
That's a
budget?
total of $102,673.
What I understood, maybe I'm wrong, but Broca had a loan, right?
Yep.
They have a clean water loan.
Safe
For
drinking.
Putting the line in from Wassa to Broca,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So that was a loan that we now are getting paid by Petrowski's grant or whatever, right?
Correct.
So-
Yep.
Correct.
So
Part of
we're
the,
paying for this line that's already there, and now we're only being charged $15,000 a year for water usage?
no,
Is that
the
what-
total came to $102,000. Of that, $17,000 was for the loan. The remaining amount was for the cost of the line. I do know that I have been told that in the past, and it varies from year to year, with that line, that they had at times 2 or more breaks on it, and some of those expenses were, that varied from year to year. They had to fix the line because of breakage and the like. And I believe in at one of the points, and this came in with one of the auditors, one of the years it was high as $109,000, just for a break, okay? So there's other expenses that are always out there. We also
Sure,
have,
there was
how
never a
you
break
wanna
on
take
that
The whole
transmission
village of
line.
Maine wants to take on their own utility, and you're gonna be worried about breaks.
But
Well,
the
the cost of all
process in
these-
fixing these
but
breaks,
the breaks.
we already have that
the-
expense, only
the-
everything is going to be new.
I look at it, everything is there, the infrastructure's
We
there.
plan on using that
The
infrastructure down the
infrastructure
road.
is
I'm
shot.
gonna mention
We're
one
not
thing,
gonna
as far as, I'm gonna get off of this, as far as dealing with the city, there's absolutely no discussion that they've ever made that you can take that water line and use it for someone else. None. okay?
Have you talked to Mayor Milky?
Yeah, I
since that
did.
meeting?
I sat right next
Yes.
to him and talked to him for a couple hours, so did Betty, so did Keith.
Recently.
Nothing in there at all about being able to expand that line and use it for anybody else.
Recently, you guys talked to him.
We did.
No.
No,
Yeah.
not
But
recently.
here's,
Well, we talked to him, and we talked to him about what could be done with that line, and nothing would be done going anywhere else. They were gonna control the line,
We all know-
they're gonna control who gets on the line, they wanna control what goes on. If you wanna have some control about your finances, your autonomy, there's only one way you're going. That matter, and I know we're having the discussion here tonight, we put the issues about where we were going and how we would do this to the electors when we went to incorporation. The electors had a choice in Maine and also parties that went into the CBA and how they wanted to do it. That ship has sailed. You're sitting here on a budget hearing tonight
Amen.
and trying to say something when that ship has sailed. Whole different matter. Want to ask a question on the budget? Go ahead and do it. The board's going to take some action after that. Do you have another question on the budget?
Not more.
Okay, anybody else have a question on the budget?
I got one question for Mr. Rubel. Where do you work?
I work for the city of Wausau.
Maybe you should move.
Amen to that.
Maybe you
That
should move
answers
to the
that
city if you
question.
think they're so wonderful.
Hey. Oh, thanks, Betty.
Please,
right.
you're welcome.
I'm gonna, anybody else, Skip, do you have a comment on it,
I just got one comment.
on the budget? Let's keep it to the
You
budget.
obviously don't love this municipality.
No, I work for the wastewater plant. We had to fund the water department because they were in the red every year. The city was.
Interesting.
So.
Hold on a minute, anybody else have a comment on the budget? Scott?
Okay, now that we've been through this budget,
Yes.
and it says possible action to approve,
Right?
okay, what is the next step here?
All right, here's what happens on it, the statute, when it's villages under 61.46 sub 1, public comment is allowed. After that, the Board of Trustees has a decision to make regarding passing the levy, and then they have the decision made on adopting the budget. It is a village board decision. So, the audience can make their comments on it, that's what we have here in the public hearing. After that, public hearing's closed, goes back to the board to adopt the levy and adopt the budget. To approve the levy and adopt the budget. So, that's the process on this now.
What's approved?
Betty, are you comfortable with this budget?
As comfortable as I can be. We're dealing with the hand, we're dealing with Scott, and this board did the best. And we've worked on this budget for hours, and this is the best we can do for, I feel, for the Maine
And I-
residents and the former Broco residents.
Okay, is this cut, because some of these things some of these areas here are lower for 2019 than they are for 2018. Here's my question, are you putting yourself in a position where you're gonna end up borrowing money, paying interest to make ends meet?
I don't believe so. We had a really lengthy discussion at our last budget workshop, and what is helping us, like I said, is this funding that we were able to get. You know, Maine did spend some money, we gave up some of our road work so that we could use that money to pay some engineering and do some of this infrastructure and stuff, and now we're getting that reimbursed to us. It's starting to come back via this interim loan and the grants, and so, you know,
Okay,
I
I know that this next comment affects everybody differently. If you have a $200,000 house, I live in a $100,000 house, so it's gonna affect me less. But should some of these areas be more?
We actually, if I may, I brought that same point up, and we were in here for almost 14 hours going over this budget. And we studied every possible angle, and I am comfortable with the numbers that we came up with, and I don't believe we shortchanged ourselves in any area whatsoever that we're gonna have to worry about it at all.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear.
Okay?
like I said, it is a crystal ball though, Scott. If something unforeseen would happen, we may have to borrow from another category. You know, we did increase like our seal coating for our roads. So if we have something unforeseen happen, there's 50 to 75,000 we can borrow out of that. You know, so that's how our accountant lets us shift these categories around, because it's no different than owning a house. You don't know if, you know, you're gonna get a storm and it's gonna, you know, take out your sump pump and everything else and flood your basement or something. You know, it's just, it's
guesswork.
It's guesswork. Go ahead.
And there are unforeseen things. We, in the past 12 years, we've borrowed over $1.4 million to get our roads caught up. But we've never come to the end of a year and been short. So I think this group of people that have worked very hard in the last 10, 12 years to make it work. And we've been very successful making it work.
Okay, so in previous budget meetings, I know that the audience has voted to approve.
That's for a town.
Now, okay, so now that we're a village, that has changed.
That has changed.
Okay.
No, we're gonna make sure that everybody has any other comments.
Any other comments on the budget or questions? Okay. We need a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
So moved.
Wes, Tom, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carried.